Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/about-to-break. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. This is a great opportunity to take books with you wherever you go. You're traveling, you're on the road, and let's be honest, books are heavy, but Audible.com lifts the burden off of you. And it allows you to take books with you wherever you go. You can listen to them on the go. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/about-to-break. Again, that's audibletrial.com/about-to-break for your free audiobook.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Something is about to break.
Hey everybody, welcome to About to Break, episode 006, our continuation of our conversation with Eddie Furth. Part one of this conversation was huge. It was so awesome and encouraging for me, realizing that sometimes done is better than good. Don't just sit back and wait for everything to be perfect. Create art, put it out there, let the world see it. In fact, last night, Eddie was at the Nerdist showroom at Meltdown Comics. Hilarious show. They did a fictional roast of the Avengers. And if you guys missed that, you're not going to want to miss this. Next Tuesday, January 24th, he's going to be in the Belly Room at the Comedy Store doing their historical roast. And it's the roast of Helen Keller. That's all I'm going to say about that. But tickets are available now, $5 online or at the door, and it's a 21 and over show, 2-drink minimum at the door at the Comedy Store. Classic venue for a classy guy. That's all I've got for right now, guys. Sit back, relax, and enjoy our conversation with the incredible Eddie Furth.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
And someday, you're gonna be a big star.
They're gonna put me in the movies. They're gonna make a big star out of me. We'll make a film about a man that's sad and lonely, and all I gotta do is act naturally. Well, I'll bet you.
I keep using this as an excuse, and I need to get over this. The fact that our market is oversaturated, there's a million TV channels. There used to be Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 7, and if you were on one of those channels, you were a star the next day.
Yeah.
But the truth is, there's a guy right now, I don't know his name, he's on some Lifetime show, or he's the star, number one star on USA, and I don't have that channel, and I don't watch it, and I can walk by him on the street, you know?
We do that all the time out here, in fact.
Oh, I know.
I think I saw that guy that you're vaguely referencing at the gym this morning, because I didn't know who he was.
Yeah. That's an excuse I've been using. Just get it done. There is an opportunity, especially with comedy. Comedy is expendable. Mm-hmm. Like, especially nowadays, there's no guys doing an hour set, and that's what they're going to do the rest of their life.
And it also just opens up all different avenues, writing for different things, or producing this over here. We mentioned briefly that when I was back east, I went to one of those painting nights where you get drunk and paint. So I started
the drink and draw, or the wine,
booze and paint, wine, and
whatever it is,
wine and brushes.
Yeah. Oh, this will be fun. Let's do a night. And
they're great. They really are. They're great.
My wife just did the painting thing with my daughters.
Yeah.
Like this afternoon, they sent me pictures, and she told me, she's like, and they do a night where you come with your friends, and they do wine, and we're totally talking about we should do this.
You have to. It's
what
so
a
much
wonderful
fun.
thing.
So then what I did is I started to just paint on my own, just for fun.
Yeah.
And this was a great lesson, right? I'm very introspective, very analytical. So what happened was, as I started painting, I'd paint something, and I'd be like, that's not good. It's not what I saw in my head. I didn't do it right. And someone else would come along and see it and be like, that's awesome. And I did it again. I was like, I didn't get it right. And someone would be like, that's great. And that's when I realized, like, oh God, just because I didn't get exactly what I wanted out didn't mean the art and creativity wasn't valid. Because somebody else is going to see it in a different way. And especially like you and I, who are trying to take what we're doing and present it to a large audience. Right. It's going to touch someone somewhere in a way and in a time that we can never understand and recognize. And that continues to drive me as a performer when I'm feeling like my voice isn't heard, or my relevancy hasn't been found, or what am I doing with my life? Right. I'm like, no, you know what? If one person somewhere in the world that I never see gets 5 minutes of respite from their horrible, tough life of shit, or finds an inspiration, or even better, sees me and is like, oh God, if that guy can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And gets up off their ass
And
to go
does
create
something, yeah.
That's what it's all about. It's
You talked about us really wanting to be kids, and that is, I mean, there is that innocence. When you were a kid, you drew a picture just to draw a picture.
just to draw a
You know,
picture.
or like when we got our friend, I remember that kid he was like the rich kid who had laser tag.
Yeah.
Like he was the one everyone went to their house. But he got a video camera, and all of a sudden we're making videos.
Oh my God,
know?
you
And
did
it's-
that?
Oh yeah.
My
oh,
brother-
yeah. All of our projects then became video based for school, and we had to bring the camera and plug it into the TV because that was the only way to show it. Like,
I love movies. I grew up
Yeah.
on Back to the Future, Batman, Ghostbusters. The thing that drives me even more is that when I was probably 4 or 5 years old, my brother and his friends from Cub Scouts, Jim Agostino and Richard Agostino, I want to give them a plug on the on the show.
not Lincoln though.
Not Lincoln.
Forget Lincoln and his dumb cat.
Lincoln. But Richard Agostino, Jim Agostino, we would go to their house. They had a camera, and we would just make movies.
Yeah.
We made a horror movie that was kind of based on Freddy Krueger, and an action movie that was kind of based on whatever 80s and 90s action movies.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Lethal Weapon. But like,
You didn't have to have a story then. You just had to have action.
and the story made sense to us. I remember being on the front lawn, and they like shot me with a fake
Yes!
gun, and I did this over dramatic
Oh my
throwing
gosh.
and falling, and I was like, "Was that good? Did it look good?" And they're like, "It looked great." That's what makes me want to do this, and that's what I aim to do all the time, because we get caught up in trying to be good and trying to impress people. No, just
Yeah.
do the
I
silly
love
thing.
that.
Have fun.
Man, when I was a kid, and God bless my mom for this, man, because she was the mom who, like, she let me do whatever. I mean, we went to Universal Studios when I was a kid.
Out here,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we saw the Miami Vice stunt show, which was right before Waterworld. And Waterworld's been rocking ever since. I don't know how we ever chose Waterworld. It's a great show.
it's a great show, but
But the movie, I mean, it was like...
they're getting more money and mileage out of the stunt show than the movie.
Yeah, right.
Apparently, I think that's how they plan to recoup what they lost on that movie.
They're
was
like,
just
listen,
run the stunt show.
we
Just-
already got the costumes. We bought this really expensive airplane.
The guy's like, "Is this the one that Mel Gibson wore?" Or
No.
Kevin Costner?
Kevin
They're like,
Costner.
this was his specific costume. Like, really? Screen worn? Yes, this is the
Yes,
hero
this is
number
all-
one.
These are all accurate period pieces for the future. Anyway,
So you saw Miami Vice.
I saw Miami Vice, and I went home, and we had, I don't even know what project my stepdad was making. He's notorious for, like, going to Home Depot. Like, he'd get all excited. He'd go to the, whatever it was, home base back then.
Mm-hmm.
He'd buy all the supplies to build something and then never build it. So there'd just be like wood, you know, we'd have like, we just have cinder blocks, and for like some wall he would never build. So, but it was great because I went home and I remembered tying jump ropes together,
Yeah.
and making a zip line with a piece of PVC pipe you hold on and slide down. And we tried to recreate the whole stunt show, and I'd fall out of a tree onto some plywood that I covered a beanbag with, thinking that was going to protect me. It was awesome. Like that.
What kid didn't grab a rope and swing from one thing to another like Indiana Jones?
Right.
That's
And I think that's one of the biggest challenges. I mean, we've talked about the money side of it, but the biggest challenges as an artist is to not monetize everything.
Mm-hmm.
To not go, okay, this will be great, but can I pay the bills with it? Or this will be great. Is it going to be worth the investment?
just the passion of it.
And that's
The
what I
joy.
love, man. I love, and I know, I mean, you work with all the different things you do, but I love that you do so many different things and you're passionate about it, and it still has the fun. It's not just...
I moved across the country away
Yeah.
from my family. I will say this. One of the biggest sacrifices I make regularly is this idea that, you know, the rest of my family is on the East Coast, specifically my mother, who I'm very close with. And I choose every day to sacrifice time with her to come out and achieve a dream that we sort of had together, and as part of that stuff that she taught me to do. But when push comes to shove, right, we're all going to, quote unquote, meet our maker someday. We're all going
Yeah.
to come to the final moments, those
Yeah.
when the last breath,
The curtain falls.
and we're going to square with ourselves. No
Yeah.
one else, I think. It has more to do with squaring with myself, you know, which choices we made. And that's one of the tougher ones. So if I'm going to do that, I'm going to damn sure make sure I'm having fun while I'm doing it. It's got to...
I love it.
It's got to be... I base most of those decisions on, like, would a 7-year-old or 17-year-old version of me be like, yeah, damn, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, with Historical Roast, we were sponsored at one time for a little while by Fleshlight.
Okay.
You know the fleshlights?
Yeah.
Fleshlights are a male sex toy.
Yeah.
It looks like a flashlight. You open it up. It's a rubber female part.
Yeah.
That you take your male part and put into that rubber female part for pleasure.
And this was a sponsor for your show.
They gave us, I would joke and I would say it, they would send us a box of boxes once a month that we would then give out as
show.
prizes.
Yeah.
And that led me to become friends with via Twitter first, and then through, as you and I just said, everyone knows everyone and sees everyone
Right.
around here. I'm friends with adult film stars.
Yeah.
Which then led me to appear on an adult film stars radio show regularly.
Yeah.
And may or may not one day she and I get a podcast or a radio show together.
Yeah.
Because when I was approached with, do you want to come on my radio show? I was like, let me see. Do I want to go on a porn stars radio show? What would I say if I was 16?
If you were 16.
I'd be like, yes, yes, sign me up right now. Because what bad can come from that at all? Like, no way, get me on that show. Like, that's,
Wow.
yeah, you have to.
That's that so few people are like, okay, now I need to be responsible. And I love that you're like looking your past self in the eye and going, okay, I'm gonna do right by my younger self. And I think that's a big part of life is you always make that decision. I think there's that decision where you go, like for you, I'm gonna move. I'm gonna move out. For me, I'm gonna go full time. Like I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna bite the bullet and just perform for a living. And when I did that, I told my wife, I said, okay, I think I'm going to do this. And I think if I don't do this, I'm going to look back and regret. Like have to look at my younger self who knew I could do this if I wanted to.
or at least wanted to.
Or at least wanted to. And we only get one shot at life. This is it. Like this is it, man. And how many people do we know? I mean, I've lost friends that were younger than I am now that are gone. And we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So why not do the things that you know are going to bring you joy, are going to bring other people joy? Like, live it up, have fun, do art,
Absolutely.
and do it just for the sake of doing it, not because this might turn into something else that I can make money off of.
Absolutely. I think that's, look, I've not been around here on this earth long enough to say I've got it figured out. I don't know anything better than somebody else. So when I say, like, I've got my concept of what I think the quote-unquote meaning of life is, like this thing of, so, like, what's it all about? Like, why? Or what do we do with all of this? Like, we've got self-awareness or this.
Right.
I've come down to one thing. I think that the meaning of life, what it's all about is self-expression. I think it's about creativity.
Yeah.
I think everyone is an artist and an entertainer and a creator in some fashion. I think everyone is supposed to paint or sculpt or tell a joke or tell a story. Because at the end of the day, the fact is there's billions of us all sharing one world.
Right.
But we all see it from entirely different points of view. So in essence, there's a billion different worlds.
Right.
Because you were in a car before you got here.
Right.
You saw the world from a completely unique point of view that no one else saw.
Of all those people on the road that we were talking about.
If you don't share that
Yeah.
in some form or fashion, then the day you die, that goes away entirely and we miss it.
Wow.
And so I'm a big proponent that everybody should write their own autobiography. But at the very least, everyone needs to be self-expressive, whether it's to a therapist or a friend or on some grand artistic scale. Because at the end of the day, we each see this world from such a unique point of view that if we don't share it, that gets lost later.
Yeah.
That's the meaning, is to come and bring the fact that we all see it differently together and get one sort of mosaic of what it was all about because we shared what it was about.
That's so good. And that's why the creative arts, movies and music and comedy, it speaks to people. And internally there's something where we go, I mean, it's like we started off by talking about when you're in a room doing stand-up, there's a connection.
Yeah.
And we're there. And you may have a job building widgets, and you may spend all day long just losing your mind about how can we sell more of these widgets, you know? But there was a time when we didn't have that crap. And we didn't have phones. There was a time where human beings sat around a fire and all we had was each other's minds and creativity. And somehow we made it.
I fucking love that.
And now I think a little bit of what happens when you get in a dark room with someone behind a mic is we're getting back to that, let's just talk.
There was
Let's have a moment.
BBC's Walking with Cavemen, I think
Yeah.
was the documentary
I didn't
series.
see that, no.
I'm a big documentary fiend.
Oh,
which
it's so
which
great.
younger Eddie would make fun of me. Like, you nerd, you're watching documentaries. Go watch The Avengers, idiot. And there's this one moment where they talk about the discovery of fire.
Yeah.
And there's a really poignant shot. There's just a caveman sitting there thinking, and it like kind of moves slowly in on him. But there is this is, like you said, sitting in a dark room at a theater is sitting around a fire with the fire on.
Yeah.
Fire extended our day because we used to, as a species, be limited by sunlight.
Right.
And the fire, this documentary pointed out, was what extended the day and gave us the time to think and the time to discuss with other people what was going on. This sharing of stories, whether funny or sad. I'm a big believer, too, that narrative is the only way we relate as people. Like, for instance, this whole thing we're doing right now is just telling stories back and forth, and that's how we relate. It's this passing of time. It's the only way we can mark passing of time.
Right.
Something happened, something else happened, and this is where we are now.
Yeah.
And so in any form, whether it's the story of a magic trick, or it's the story of a joke, or it's the story of a pro wrestling match, or the story of a dinosaur who almost attacks the kids, but we back him up just in time, and she's not going to kill anyone today.
Yeah.
That's how we relate and understand what's going on around us. And that's what ties it all together for us. So self-expression is key in that.
I love it.
So I was coaching basketball. I decided, or I wanted to do that. I decided I was going to go to the city and learn how to do it. In the meantime, I became a personal trainer. So that's this part of my life too. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease.
Oh wow.
And that became I use the word coping now, but at that time that was a struggle. I could not get healthy. It was ravaging me. It was tough. And so I learned how to I became a personal trainer to take care of myself.
Wow.
And that's also where I was making a lot of money, and I did really well. I also was a kid without a college degree, and in Connecticut, where I grew up, I was told that without a college degree, you couldn't be something. Like,
wow.
That was essential. I wound up eventually running the fitness center at the JCC, the Jewish Community Center, where I grew up at and was working, and that was a big accomplishment for me. And one day, I kind of just recognized how it wasn't fulfilling me. Like, I'd proven the point. I proved to myself, I proved to my father, I proved to the entire world I could make a living, I was really good, I could get there.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'll tell you the full story of how I first moved to New York and then out here. Full disclosure, I was never like a booze kid. I didn't drink in high school. I was clean cut. I didn't smoke any weed until I was 27 years old. It was the first time I tried it even.
Yeah.
And I had started doing that a little bit and then meditating and things like that. And one day I was sitting in my room in Connecticut. I was manager of this gym, this and that, and I was doing whatever. I was thinking at that point, it was early January of whatever year it was, probably 2012. And I'd been thinking about like, I might want to move on now. I might want to go live in the city and try that.
Were you doing any acting at the time? Any community theater or things like that?
Because this also hit at a point where I had just done some community theater, and my sister's boyfriend, they were down at Temple, and they were doing a student film that turned into like a small indie that went on to some festivals, and they asked me to be a part of that. And to this day, some of the best work I've ever done. But I was working, still doing that stuff, but all of my time and attention was essentially on the JCC, and there was a woman involved too who broke my heart, as they do.
It happens, man.
So I was sitting there and I dropped a joint behind my desk, and I got on my knees to get it, and on the floor in front of me are the keys to my brother's apartment in the city, where I would go occasionally when I needed to stay for a gig or for an audition. And since it had been on my mind, I was like, this is the universe telling you, like, this is the sign. You like signs? You like the universe? You like all that touchy-feely stuff?
Yeah.
We're saying move to the city right now. It dared me not to.
Wow.
And in that moment, I was like, all right, I'm done. I am going to go to the city, and I'm going to start to really pursue this as like...
Wow.
So I quit my job in Connecticut.
You're established pretty much. I mean, you're on the track to just build this career of doing this, and you say, I'm going to...
Yeah. I had done a great... I did my very first... like theater production, like a theater festival, very first theater festival in New York. I had to drop my pants for it too, and I was like so psyched. I loved the idea of that. I was like,
this was your first
I'd done a lot of
big-
community
yeah.
theater in Connecticut, but getting into theater and theater festivals in New York, I'd yet to crack that nut. So at
Yeah.
about 27, 28, I finally cracked that nut.
Yeah.
And then I went down to Philadelphia, and we went out to the Poconos and shot this great little indie film, Dark Forest.
Yeah.
And I was riding this high of like, I feel like I can do this thing. Like,
Yeah.
I'd put in almost 10 years of studying, because at 19
Right.
I decided I want to do it. I studied for 10 years, and at 27, 28 I'm like, all right, like I kind of got my feet under me. I'm going
Yeah.
to the city and doing it. I dropped the joint. I'm like, oh God, I am doing this thing.
Wow.
I moved to the city. I lived in the city for just about a year. I found that as a creator, the city, Manhattan is great once you're established, but for learning and practicing your craft,
It's tough, huh?
living in the city for me was all about living in the city. In fact,
Yeah.
most of the people I know who live in Manhattan, like that's what defines them. I live in New York. You have to
Right.
work, live and breathe
In
to
that
live
city,
in
yeah.
the city to actually do that. I love New York. I grew up 45 minutes from it. I went to New York Knicks games my whole life. I went to Madison Square Garden to watch Hulk Hogan. Like,
Yeah.
I love the city. But also just like open mics were scheduled so that I couldn't find, like you couldn't get to 2 in a single night, or they'd cost
Right.
$8 a piece. Like,
Yeah.
and at a certain point, and then my sister and her boyfriend decided they were moving to LA, and like I was like, oh God, if my baby sister can do this, like I called
Wow.
myself to task. Like, she inspired me. I called her the other day and told her on the anniversary of when I moved out here. Because
Yeah.
when I moved out here, I lived on her couch for the first month while I found a place.
Wow. Now, when did you start doing stand-up?
It was while I was in Connecticut. I
Yeah.
had done a community theater play with a guy named Mondo,
Okay.
who was a stand-up in the area. I'd always sort of regarded stand-up comedians similar to like opera singers, where it was like that's different. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta really have a thing. Like an opera singer, like
Oh, yeah.
your voice is touched by the hand of God.
Right.
And stand-up is what we do, but that's a whole...
Yeah.
And that's when I learned, don't pedestalize anything in life.
Huh.
No one or anything in this world deserves to be put on a pedestal, because everyone and everything is just a person and is just a thing. Jordan may be great at playing basketball, but he's just a guy.
Wow.
He's just a guy who worked his butt off to be good at playing basketball. And so Mondo was doing stand-up, and I would start to write for him a little. I'd give him
Yeah.
a tag here. I'd give him
Okay.
an idea for a joke. This one joke that we never got over, but I swore was funny, was comparing a relationship to an episode of Law and Order. Like the different acts in Law and Order. Like,
Yeah.
you come home and dun dun dun. Like, and then one day, I owe so much to Mondo. I was like, I want to do it.
Yeah.
How do I do it?
Yeah.
And so he set up a night of stand-up comedy. We did it once a month for 2 summers in a row down in downtown Stamford, which was essentially to showcase me. And I never forget that idea, because
Wow.
he didn't need to produce that show.
Right.
We had a bunch of other people who'd come on, but it was always me and him and a bunch of other people, and that's where I started to cut my teeth.
Yeah.
So I was like, forget this. Like, I'm going to, like, I'm moving to the city, and I started doing a whole bunch of some open mics in there, and then I was like, all right. After about a year or so, I was like, look, I've got no more or less money. I was working at an Equinox as a trainer.
Yeah.
I haven't had better or worse auditions or open mics. I was like, it's time. Like, I really want to do this. I've always known LA was the place.
Let's do
was shit or get off the pot.
Right.
It was time. It was, fish
Yeah.
or cut bait. Like, this is it. And on a whim, and this is another encouragement.
So on a whim you go to New York, and then on a whim you go to LA.
I didn't spend time saving up money.
Yeah.
I didn't spend time planning. My goal used to be that I would come to LA when, quote unquote, someone knew I was getting off the plane. I had a meeting with an agent or an audition opportunity.
Yeah.
But when push came to shove, it was just, I picked a date, I bought a ticket. I didn't have time to save up a lot of money. It was
That is so good, man.
just go.
Again, going back to Seinfeld.
We're
But
adaptive.
Seinfeld says, like, people will say, oh, comedians are lucky. They get to do that. No. At one point, you quit the 9-to-5 job. At one point, you bought a plane ticket to LA. At one point, you went to an open mic. Don't
Yeah.
just talk about it. Don't daydream about it. I love that, man.
And there was nothing special. There's no rite of passage. It's
Yeah.
the biggest difference. And I think for me, because you grew up out here, but
Yeah.
I transplanted. So I know this world through the transplant idea. Is you relate to this concept of, like, there's the people who stay home, and then there's the people who leave home.
Yeah.
And the only difference is one day you left. That's the difference. There's
Yeah.
there's nothing else. There's no, I say it honestly, like, there's nothing special about me. I'm human just like everybody else. I have thoughts, ideas. I might be creative or interesting,
Yeah.
but we all are. We all have something. I'm not special in any other sense. Like, I just went and wanted to do it, and And in that same vein too, like refuse to quit at any point.
Yeah.
There's plenty of times to quit. It challenges you to quit constantly.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just committed to the concept of I want to create and contribute back in that way.
Yeah.
Even if I'm broke, even if no one likes it,
Yeah.
even if it's never understood, like, nah, that's my place in life. I'm a creator. I'm a maker. I entertain when you're being entertained.
And how many people just give up because it got hard or because it didn't
Alton Brown.
feel good?
You watch Food Network at all?
I love Alton Brown.
Alton Brown's a huge influence on me. I love him in so many ways. He's a big bow tie guy as well.
He is.
He says on different interviews and podcasts I've heard him on, he says that people often come up to him and say, so, how do I become like a Food Network star?
Yeah.
And he goes, and he says that his standard answer is always, you can't. And he says it to him. He's like, you can't. And he says the reason is because if someone goes, oh, okay, and moves on, if all it took is for someone to tell you that you can't do it to give up, then you were never going to do it anyway.
Oh, man.
But he says every once in a while I'll do that, and someone will say, what do you mean I can't? Yes, I can. He's like,
Yeah.
well, there you go. Yes, you can.
Yeah,
Go do
go
it now.
do it.
Because there
Go
is no
do it.
blueprint. There's no plan to get where you want.
That-
And the best of us, like you said, Steve Martin,
Oh, yeah.
didn't set out to be Steve Martin at
Yeah.
the beginning. He had a whole different concept of how it could go or what it would. He just wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then
Just
one
do
day
it to do
stumbled
it.
into being that ultimate expression. If
May-
all it took for me to quit was for somebody to tell me I couldn't, or
Right.
for it to be challenging,
Yep.
of course it was going to be challenging, especially because what we've been talking about is it is sort of a privilege to get a chance to create in a way that people see it on a large scale, or you make a living off of it, or whatever that is.
Right.
But even if it's just self-expression, that's still a privilege of some sort.
And it's still valid. And it's,
100%.
like you said, everyone should be creative.
Yes.
Everyone is creative, but not everyone creates. Because they think,
Yeah.
well, that's, we have the musicians who do the music and we have the comedians who do the comedy. And some of the funniest people I know don't ever get in front of a mic.
Yeah.
And it's like, just do things that add value to other people's life and realize that you don't need a paycheck to make it valid.
Everyone in this world has a book or a story or a movie
Yes.
or a thing in them.
Yeah.
It's just whether or not you take the time to recognize that expression or find a way to get it out.
Yep.
And again, like we said, it's always your best attempt at it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Shakespeare could re-edit his plays 100 times over. Also, because he didn't really write all of them. Those are all they're collected works. Those
Right.
are from historical roast. What I've deduced.
I
Right?
love it.
Shakespeare was in a theater company.
Yeah.
There was a group of people who were all working together to put those things on. So everyone contributed a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
He just happened to be sort of at the top of it.
I wonder who his linen was, if Shakespeare's McCartney.
I think his wife. A lot of
think
people
so?
point to his wife.
Okay.
There was also like one or two like right-hand guys, but it was like a group effort, and they just most of those plays were collected after he passed, and his theater group was like, we should get all this shit together because he was a really good dude and we miss him and we want to continue to perform these shows.
That's crazy.
So again, never pedestalize anyone or
Right.
anything, but also just go out and make. Like,
Right.
you never know which improv group in LA right now,
Right.
500 years from now, is going to be looked at as like, oh yeah, they had that thing going on. Like,
Yeah.
Shakespeare was definitely, he was rich from real estate, but plays were only part of what was going on then. You
Right.
never know how it's all going to play out later on.
Yeah.
Houdini performed to masses, but he also had his criticisms as well. It's
Right.
not, he wasn't a legend until the legend grows once he's gone
Right.
as well.
And
You can't predict those things.
Exactly. And like you're saying, there in LA there is a lot. It seems like, and I haven't spent time in New York. I've been there, but I haven't spent time as an entertainer there. It seems like LA has a little bit more of an encouraging atmosphere, and New York tends to be a little more like competitive. Mm-hmm. But I really love when you see people. I mean, on the regular, people get on a network show, or like I did. Melissa Villasenor.
We've worked with her a lot. I
Yeah.
absolutely adore her. She's
Oh my goodness.
she's a good friend of ours.
I did an event with her, and it was the first time I met her back in February. And it was like the weirdest. I mean, it was a weird gig. It was one of those gigs where somehow they have money to hire entertainers.
Yeah.
But then you get there and it's like nobody came because there was a show. Like they came because it was like a fundraiser or whatever
Yeah.
it was, So we're in Whittier, California, in the Elks Lodge, and she's doing comedy, and I'm doing magic and hosting, and I am just dying. Like, she's so funny, and it was one of these deals where, like, it wasn't the audience. Like, it was older people. I mean, she's doing Kristen Wiig impressions spot on, and Matthew McConaughey, and they've never heard who these people are, you know?
They didn't get her Owen Wilson?
Exactly.
Come on, you know?
And I'm sitting there going, she's going to blow up. She's going to, like, I mean, the world needs to know who she is. And then, like, 2 months later, they announced she's going to be on SNL, you know? And
so talented.
I just love that. Like,
anyone who isn't in LA who's listening to this is gonna think we're also fucking with them. That, like, you're like, do you know Melissa? And I'm like, yeah, I worked with her, and you worked with her in wildly different avenues, but we're both all of it. No, that's how. That's the other part of this secret is there is no secret. Like, you just come out here and you bust your ass and you meet amazing people who are talented, who are also working hard.
Yeah.
And you all appreciate that fact because it isn't competitive. It's encouraging. Like, I sent her a text right away. I grew up with a kid, James King, who's now the trumpet player for Bruno Mars. When they play the Super Bowl, I text him. I'm like, James, what was that like? He goes, unbelievable. Like, I text my friends. Darian Sills Evans got a CBS show. Like, we're all supportive. When we did a new show, someone texted me. It's like, great job, because you're seeing someone do the thing we all hope to do. So again, rising tides lift all boats. And
there is something about the communal aspect of, like, the support that you get when you're connected with other people who are about what you're about. One of the guys who I just recorded with, his name's Christian Pascal, and he is a friend of mine who I knew as an audio engineer, but he's an amazing drummer. That's another thing in LA. Everybody does, like, you do multiple things. Yeah. Everybody's got, like, all these different avenues. But he plays with a country artist named Maren Morris, and she just won the CMA Artist of the Year. And so now he's like, they're opening for Keith Urban, and he's doing all that. These are just guys that you know from hanging out and doing shows, and it's really cool. Yeah, LA's a good place. And I love that you're telling people to come here, because most people are like, there's too many people in LA.
And sometimes it is an active exercise. I try to remain a fan of all of these things too.
Yeah.
I learned, there's a great transition in my life where I learned there was a sort of a period of mourning when you stopped only being a fan and you started having to produce those things. There is an element of pro wrestling that's wildly different for me now that I am a part of it.
The backside of it.
I watched Survivor Series and the NXT show this weekend. They had two big shows.
Yeah.
Couldn't help but look at a few of the refs, and I'm very self-aware. I identified fast that, no, that's jealousy. You want to be in the ring working with those guys because you know how good they are.
Yeah.
But there's little things, like it changes.
It does.
But I do my best to continue to remain the fan of all of those things and watch it as a kid.
Yeah,
because
and not overanalyze it and go, I can't pay attention during this show because that light bulb's out. Why didn't someone fix that?
This idea that I could have done that better. Like, but when you were 8 years old and you turned on Saved by the Bell, you never once said to yourself, but this doesn't make sense. Like, shut up, man. Stop criticizing. Like, exactly. Have fun and look at it through those eyes and enjoy it forever. And so when someone new or different or interesting comes along where I'm like, oh my God, like that's...
Yeah.
Especially with historical roast and fictional roast.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts is watching some of my favorite comedians in the area get a chance to do a spin on something that I kind of helped.
Yeah.
Right? One of my favorite comedians. I love giving people shout outs. So Scout Durwood is on...
Unless it's Lincoln.
Fuck Lincoln.
Yeah, and his cat.
Scout Durwood is on a new MTV show called Mary and Jane.
Okay.
She's done a bunch of our roasts.
Yeah.
Again, one of those people who I look at and I'm like, God, she is just so talented and good. And she played Princess Leia and Marilyn Monroe for us recently. And watching, like, as a fan, like, I like watching her stuff. I want to see what she'll do here. Like, that's important.
There's nothing better than being a fan of your friends.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like,
out here, it makes it so easy.
Yeah.
It really does.
I love, talking about, like, not getting jealous or egotistical. At the Magic Castle, the entertainment director, his name is Jack Goldfinger.
Yeah.
And he is just one of the funnest dudes. And he always, he says the coolest stuff. And one of the things he says is, he's like, you're always the best till the best shows up. When do we forget that we should take art seriously, but quit taking ourselves so seriously?
That's how I approach my career and my life. I take what I do very
Yeah.
seriously, but I don't take myself seriously at all. Like, I'm a referee. I have to do that so well. Not because I'm special, but because that deserves the honor of...
Right.
I also came from basketball, so I enjoy the healthy competition.
Yeah.
I'll shout out Jamar Neighbors again, because there was a point at an open mic where Jamar told a joke. I laughed my ass off, and then I also said to myself, like, okay, I got to step my game up. Like, this is where we're working from.
Yep.
I'll tell you the joke. I've told it to his face. We laugh about it all the time. He told a joke where he said, Jamar sounds a little like Dave Chappelle. So Jamar was like, me and God don't have the same sense of humor. Because apparently God didn't want to see what Michael Jackson would look like as an old-ass man. And when he said that, I was like, oh, God, like... fucking hilarious. And now I've got to change. Like, I have to step my game up. And I liked that because it was
wonderful.
what we then learned. This is something we like. We're this far in, and we're only getting to this aspect of it. But this is a brilliant part of Los Angeles.
Are you okay time-wise, too?
I'm great.
Okay, cool.
One of the things that, and Jamar and I have spoken about this specifically, is that similar to what I imagined the Harlem Renaissance was, we're a concentrated group of creators who all put forth, as we've discussed, immense time and effort into that creativity. Yeah. And then when you're around that, we all raise each other's games at an exponential rate because I'm watching Jamar. Yeah. Jamar's great. So he's pushing me to get better, so I get better. And someone else sees me doing something, so they push themselves that much harder. And we all kind of step on each other's shoulders, not in a bad way, but we all boost each other up a little bit along the way because there's this concentration of creativity. Yeah. So we push each other to get better. To get better. So Jamar tells that joke. Now I got to write better, so I'm writing better. So my friend writes better, and this changes that. And I start this show, so someone starts the other show. And the healthy competition and the healthy encouragement of getting better, right? Because it's this concentration. Yeah. So just by being in Los Angeles, we are all already better at our jobs. We are the cream of the crop. The way we said it one day at an open mic was, a middle or lower end comedian out here is already better than the best comedian in any other town because they're not challenged to go after each other. I'm at a mic somewhere and I got to go after a Jamar or a Scout or Melissa or I'm stepping on stage next to Justin Willman. Right. I've got to raise my game to be with them, which makes me that much better as a performer.
And not to show them up or to try to one up somebody, but to give the audience who has just experienced that a quality. You know what I mean?
And to work with that person. Yeah. I can say it from the experience. I like working with the best. Yeah. In a basketball sense, I want to play with great players because then the game is that much more fun and easy and better because we're not working on basic skill. We're already at the pick and roll, so we can execute it seamlessly. So when I'm on stage with Justin, and he's that good, I want to be that good for him. I want to give him back as a performer. I don't want to let him down. I want to hold up my end of the bargain.
There's such a maturity that is behind what you just said, because I have met guys who say that they like performing with weaker performers because it makes them look better. And I say, no, it doesn't. It doesn't make anybody look better.
Taylor, go on stage after Jamar Neighbors, and your job's so much easier because he was hilarious. So everything you do is even that much better. And so I want to keep that going for the next guy.
That's good.
I've got to bring up this weekend. We had Ptolemy Slocum play Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we had Kyle Clark and John Ungaro play the droids at the Star Wars roast. Yeah, I go in between them. Yeah. I want to keep that up with them. They're great guys. I want to keep up my end of the bargain, work off what they gave me.
Yeah, and you're creating this experience together. I love that you're not looking at it and this is one of the things that I struggle with, and I would say this to any magician, but I feel like magicians tend to still focus on, this is my act. And it's very, and this is something, and I don't know Justin well, but I highly respect what he's done, because most guys, they just do their thing and they get up and they got their 12-minute act and they're so disconnected from everything else, But a guy like Justin will get up and he's going to mention something that just happened a minute ago, and he's going to set up something that's going to happen here, And I love that, what you're doing with these shows that you're putting together is, we're going to create this together. And it's not just about me getting up and killing. And I don't want to just feel good because I did better than everyone else. I want everybody to love what we did together. It really is That's something beautiful about that, man. It's like
the whole team. We're all, and
That's the basketball player in you,
it's the
man.
basketball player. I want to pass the ball. I want to set you up for a good shot. We all, in entertainment, we can get lost on this.
Yes.
But as we started, we talked about it, like rising tides lift all boats. If you score a point, we all score the point.
Right.
You know, if one of these guys I know gets on television, we all get on TV in a sense. Like that opens up more opportunity, and if the spotlight is shining near us, we're all going to get our moment, and we're all going to contribute in some way and help someone out. And yeah, no, I enjoy working with I want to work with the absolute best. As a referee, I look at guys like John Cena. John Cena's great at what he does. I want to be next to him because I want to work with the best, because that will teach me something new, and I want to help those guys with their show. And at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, I love working with new guys because we can all help each other.
Right.
But I also love when I'm in a main event with Scorpio Sky and Willie Mack and Pretty Peter Avalon. Like, those guys are great at what they do. I want to be in there with we all are good then. It's so much more fun to play with those people.
Yeah, it really is.
Putting on a show with someone who's really good.
Yeah.
That's the rush.
I was scheduled to do, and this is I mean, I do a lot of like corporate-y kind of events, you know?
Yeah.
And I was scheduled to do this event, and I was excited about it. I mean, it's going to be a good gig to have. But it's corporate events are interesting because no one showed up for the show.
Yeah.
They showed up to some party, or they showed up to eat a free steak, and then you're the surprise guy, you know? And I got a call today that one of my favorite performers, who is also a magician and a hilarious comedian, is going to be on the same show. And now I'm like through the moon. Nothing changed. I'm not getting paid more. I'm still in the same venue. It's
the
still
audience
the same
might be
audience.
just as weak.
Yes, but I'm working with someone who is like, that's it. That made all the difference.
Yeah.
It's not, at the end of the day, it's not about the money. It's not about, you know, I'm still going to be in Houston or wherever it is. Mm-hmm. I get to work with people I respect and love, and we're going to create something together, and I get to be a part of it.
And that kind of enthusiasm then it's going to breed a better show overall.
Yeah.
Oh, some of the people that we've worked with where I just know, like, I'm like, oh, this is going to be like the opportunity to work with this person in that way. Or I do. That's why I would encourage more people to come, because if you can bring something that I don't know about or I don't see, or you're good, and I want to work with you. I want to try that thing. I want to, you know, there's a performer who will break kayfabe, like one of the performers who plays the dinosaur that I work with.
Yeah.
He's moved on to other projects now, but like working with him is a thrill when you know that you're in sync and you both have the same idea. And if I'm doing this, you know what's coming next, so you give me that thing, and then boom, we crush that shot, and the audience goes nuts.
Yeah. I started taking improv classes at UCB a couple years ago, and growing up, I mean, I've always done solo performing. You know what I mean? And kind of like what I mentioned about magicians, the challenge is so often you go do a show and it's just you. Yeah. You're doing the kid's birthday party and it's all you, and you get so used to just it all being focused on what you're saying and what you're doing, and there is no listening to someone else and waiting to respond, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And doing improv has been so freeing because it's challenged me to not just be so in my head, you know, of what I'm going to do and have it all planned out.
Yeah.
But it's also just the communal aspect of working with other people. And there's something magical about like getting 15 people who have never met before in a room and saying, okay, you're all going to be best friends, and go. And it just works because people are open to, it's not about me, it's about the experience that we're going to create, you know?
My acting teacher out here, his style, he calls it's choiceless awareness. Meaning that a lot of times as actors, we would go over our lines over and over, and we'd plan how to say them before we ever get to a scene. And how does that work? You don't know what the other person's going to say. So you got to throw that out. And the way we kind of attributed it at the end was just this idea that, like, the way he was teaching felt like I was standing at the edge of a tall building. Yeah. And Steve was saying, just jump. Don't worry, the parachute will open. And then he pushes you. And you're like, oh, my God, is the parachute going to open? And then it's trusting that, the parachute is just going to open.
Yes.
And that's the thrill. That's the moment of I don't know what's going to happen next, but I trust that we're going to work with it, whatever it is.
And on one hand, you feel this pressure, but then, the pressure is relieved because it's not on you.
Yeah.
It's on you to be aware and to be responsive and to be respectful of the other performers, but it's not all this stress of, oh, did I say it right?
Yeah.
There is no wrong choice. You make the right choice in the moment.
Yeah. So I had heard it a couple different times in a couple of different ways. I think the first time I heard it was that the secret of basketball is that it's not about basketball. Steve Easton, my acting coach, said it's never what you think it's about. Right? Acting's not about acting. With stand-up comedy, it's not about words and jokes. In wrestling, it's not about the moves.
Yeah.
In music, they also say that perfection is the pauses between the notes. So as a stand-up comedian, this is, and I carry it through every other aspect, but when it's not about what you think it's about. As a stand-up comedian, it's not about words, and it's not about jokes, because those are prerequisites.
Right.
If I'm standing on a stage holding a microphone, you can be guaranteed one thing. I'm going to talk on that microphone.
Right.
I'm going to say things. And if we've signed up for a comedy show, you also know that there are jokes coming.
Right.
It's not about that, because if it were, then I could just write something out, say it verbatim, and it would hit. But that's not comedy, and that's not funny. Why'd the chicken cross the road to get to the other side? That's not a joke.
No.
I have to deliver that joke. Hey,
Right.
why'd the chicken cross the road?
I don't know why.
To get to the other side.
Yeah.
Right? There's a big difference.
Yeah,
So when
yeah.
we talked about slowing down, and what I learned was not talking on stage as a comedian was what it wound up all being about. It's about the pauses. It's about timing and spaces and letting things breathe and creating tension to bring it back down.
Yeah.
Stand-up comedy is not about words and jokes, because if it was, anyone would just say some things and get over. It's about how you carry yourself on stage, what your total package is. You know, some guys are t-shirt and jeans guys, and other guys are suit and tie guys.
Yeah.
Some people are wacky this or that. So you have to find your thing, but it's not, you know, playing basketball is not about basketball. It's about team chemistry, and it's about being in the moment and not knowing where you're going to throw the next pass, but just waiting and figuring out where the next pass needs to be thrown. It's a big difference. You know, acting is not about saying the words on the page. That is not at all what it's about. It's about listening. It's about looking at each other. It's about waiting to say those words so that they have meaning once you say them. And not trying to say the words or commenting on them, but just looking someone in the eye and being honest.
Yeah.
About finding an emotion that you didn't have there. It's never about what you think it's about. It's all that. That is when I thought I started to really understand what it is I was getting involved in, and that didn't come until I was 30, and I'd been doing this for 10 or 11 years in 3 different states, where I was finally like, oh God, it's not about the words they gave me on the page. It's not about a joke that I wrote. It's not about the big move. It's about how did those wrestlers get to that big move?
Yeah.
The only way to create action is through inaction.
Right.
So it's never about what you think it's about. It's about all that other stuff. And
I feel like comedy has, in the past 10 years, taken a drastic turn.
in what way do you see it?
I think Lorne Michaels says this. Comedians are the monkeys. You know, people laugh at monkeys.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't think he means it as derogatory as it sounds to me, but I think there was a time where comedians were looked at as the relief from...
The court jesters.
Yeah, we were the comic relief. You know, it was life is hard, life is challenging. Here's someone who's going to make you escape that. And I feel like in the past, I don't know if it's been 10 years or around there, I feel like this last decade, culture has kind of looked to comedians to address these issues and to not to make light of them. You know, we don't just joke about things, but I feel like there's an openness people experience when they're in a comedy venue that I haven't seen. It's almost therapeutic or church-like, to where it's like we can laugh and we can not take ourselves seriously, but we can also, I feel like comedians are kind of the one people that can get up and say things and not have it so overly criticized.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
we're modern day philosophers.
Exactly.
And that's what we started talking with. There's entertainment, there's yucks, there's ha-has.
Yeah.
And then there's real introspection. You know, there's this idea, there's a comedian who once told me that if you're going to say something, If you're going to tell a joke, it better say something and be funny. And if you're missing one of the two, just work it until it has both.
Oh, that's
and not every joke has to have a message, but the best. So there's this arc of stand-up comedy. If you look at the greats throughout the years, there are people, Lenny Bruce, George Carlin, Kinison a bit, these guys who start to make us look at culture and society and ask some major questions.
Right.
And then stand-up comedy went through this big arc where it gained in popularity up through, because I also grew up on Comic Relief.
Right.
Beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
And then Seinfeld,
yep,
Chris Rock, and then Dave Chappelle, and was when it kind of crested with this thing. And then through a myriad of things, between Chappelle deciding he didn't want to do the show when he didn't want to, which I'm on the camp of he didn't want to do that. That was fair.
He doesn't have to. Yeah.
Everyone saw it in this way of him quitting. No, he didn't.
And they made it all about the money.
And
made it about a $50 million
his point
deal.
Was that a lot of the jokes that he was telling, he was finding that people were interpreting in the wrong way. And it was so racially charged that he was like, no, you're not getting it. I'm making fun of the racism because of how inherent it is, and you're taking it and being racist again. So he stepped away.
Yeah.
And after Chappelle, things kind of calmed down.
Yeah.
And then this new generation owes credit to two people that, one, does not get enough respect, because Dane Cook provided a resurgence in stand-up comedy in a very big and significant way. And most of us were reintroduced, if not as performers, then as the public was reintroduced to stand-up through Dane Cook.
Right.
And right after Dane Cook, if you picked up Dane Cook's album, the next thing that you did was you went and you listened to Mitch Hedberg. And Mitch Hedberg turned everything else on its ear again. And then we have this whole new crop of everything from Tig Notaro to Aziz Ansari to Kevin Hart, which are all different styles and people. Bo Burnham, Bill Burr, Louis C.K., Joe Rogan. They're all different. They all will make us look at society in a different fashion in some way, or entertain us through talking about what it is we go through every day.
Right.
And so that resurgence in the last 10 years, I always make sure, Dane Cook does not get enough credit for whatever reason. People want to crap on him, but Kevin Hart doesn't sell 54,000 seats in an arena, in a stadium in Philadelphia if Dane Cook doesn't do what he did.
Yeah.
Chris Hardwick doesn't get the opportunity to do those things. Like At Midnight, if Dane Cook doesn't make stand-up relevant again, and if Mitch Hedberg doesn't come in and show us what a true art form it can be.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting how we have these people who, at one point, everyone loves. People do this with bands. They do it with any sort of artist. People love them until more people love them, and then it's not cool anymore. I mean, even a guy, in magic, a guy like David Blaine, who magician, people will crap on, and it's like
Chris Angel too, right?
Yeah, and it's like, you know what? You may not like their style. They may not, you may not like all the choices they made, but recognize that there's a whole generation of kids that are going to grow up and still care about this art form because they saw David Blaine on TV. And
maybe you saw Chris Angel float from one building to another. Yeah. And you're like, damn, I like magic. I want to go see magic. And that led you to go see something else. Like I loved Chris Angel's TV special.
Yeah.
So that just shines more light on magicians. And I come to guys like you or Justin or Ricky Jay or things like that because there was an avenue that said magic is interesting. Let me watch this for a second.
Right.
And that's, Dane Cook may not have been the ultimate comedian that everyone's good, because the criticism on him is like you can't remember one of his bits or he didn't say anything. It doesn't matter. He opened your eyes, you started looking at something else, and you remembered someone else or something else. It opens up the door.
I've never liked, and I deal with this with music genres, I've never liked when people are like, I like all music but I hate country, or I like all music but I hate hip hop. It's like, it's all art. Like, you don't have to listen to it every day of your life. Louis C.K. doesn't have to be your favorite comedian. Brian Regan doesn't have to be your but you got to recognize these guys are creating art and they're valuable and they should be, like you said, looked up to and respected for what they do. Okay, I got one last thought, and then I don't want to keep you too long. We're pushing 2 hours. This might end up being 2 episodes.
Awesome.
Just now, you're celebrating 3 years here.
Yeah.
And in this time period, you've got your own show that you guys are doing. You and your buddy are do historical roast. You're doing fictional roast. You are working at Universal. You are doing. You're tied in with the whole wrestling community.
Wrestling. Yep.
You're doing stand-up.
Yeah.
And somebody is sitting right now in Ohio who hears you talking about just moved to California. And they're thinking, how in the world in 3 years did this guy get this connected to all these different... Apart from buy a plane ticket and roll out here, there was some moment where you said, all right, I'm going to go to stand-up open mics now. Or I'm going to, like, is there a... Not a list of do this, then this, but is there a philosophy or a mindset or some piece of advice you would give like a young person who wants to come out here and do something?
There were a few things that guided me. One is I study Buddhism.
Yeah.
I'm like a studying and practicing Buddhist. And there's an idea that people adapt the way water fills a glass.
Okay.
So if the water's in this water bottle and I pour it into the cup right next to it, it doesn't hold the form of a water bottle. It takes the shape of the glass.
Right.
So if you want to be something or you want to do something, you have to go and do and be that thing to be that thing. You want to be a stand-up comedian? Go where there is stand-up comedy and perform. And that's how you are. You are just that thing then.
Yeah.
You want to write movies? Then just write a movie. You want to act? Find a place to act and act.
Yeah.
All right? So be adaptive. Put yourself in that place. In that same vein, get around people who are really good at it.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest leg ups for me was, and this is the other so I'm going to go in reverse order. I'm going to get to this. The second thing was I studied for almost 10 years before I moved out here. So at 19 is when I dropped out of college. Right before I was 19, I dropped out of college and started taking classes in acting. And I voraciously studied everything from Morgan Freeman to Justin Timberlake on stage was considered studying because, again, it all ties in. But it's all about, as my first acting teacher said, it's all about manipulating people's emotions or masturbating people's emotions, however you want to put that. It's Justin Timberlake and Morgan Freeman are doing it in different ways, but study it. Study the best.
Right.
But study. So before I got to LA, I put in 10 years of work in Connecticut and New York of learning my craft. Learn it. Remember, 20% is getting to the dance. 80% is knowing how to dance once you get there. When I got out here, one of my big legs up was I started interning at the Nerd Melt Theater where we have our show now. That's where Justin started the Magic Meltdown. It's Chris Hardwick's theater. He performs there. It was an internship. It was non-paying.
Yeah.
It was, you go there and you run a theater 3 nights a week with people. What it taught me that part of this is a business. You actually have to draw people, and nobody knows how to draw people. The Rock doesn't know how to get people to go see this new Disney movie, Moana, because if he knew how to do it, he would just do it.
Yeah.
It's a mystery to everyone. And if you draw 50 people, you're going to want 70. And if you drew 70, you're going to want 100. And if you drew 100, you're going to want 1,000. You're always going to want more audience members.
Yeah.
And there's no way to know how to get it.
Yeah.
So working at Nerd Melt taught me the business side of it. Above everything else, it allowed me to, on a nightly basis, see working comedians and what they were and were not doing so that I could learn from them, even from standing in the back of a room.
It's huge.
Because you would watch... That's where I also learned, like, oh my God, not everyone's set is their Netflix special. Sometimes people are just coming up and winging what they're doing or working through some stuff or segueing from this to that. Like
we forget that we are presented with like you said, the best of the
edited
best.
The absolute fucking played with to no end.
Bill Burr is coming out with a new special. That thing's already been shot and filmed and is going through 3 months of editing.
It's conceptualized. It's filtered.
Yeah. But what's great is when you go to Largo and see Bill Burr hop up on someone else's show and do stuff and it doesn't land and he's okay.
You're going to the comedy store and you're hanging out in the back of the theater and you're watching not a Netflix special.
No.
You're watching what it's like to be a working comedian work through a crowd at 1 a.m. when there's 17 people, 13 of them are drunk, 4 of them didn't even know they were showing up for comedy.
Yes.
No one knows who you are.
I just watched Joe Rogan's special, the Triggered special that just came out.
Didn't see that one yet.
Just watched it, and he does his bit, and when the bit comes on, I'm going, I've seen him do this 12 times at the Comedy Store this year.
Yep.
And I've seen it kill, and I've seen it not, and it's just like you said, you got to get out there and you do it.
So working at Nerd Melt allowed me to learn, but then also put me in contact with people. The true story is that I met Justin Willman through one of his performances at Meltdown.
Yeah.
And that's how we became friends. So when we had a show, I was like, hey, we're doing this thing. Would you like to be a part of it? It was already in motion because he already knew me as well.
Right.
I've met so many good people there.
And people don't realize this is a LA thing, but you can, if you want to take classes at UCB and you can't afford $400 a class, you can intern at UCB.
Oh, yeah.
And you come and you work and you help out
Because
a day or
again,
two a week and you get free classes.
Everyone who has not lived in Los Angeles says that we're not welcoming and open arms.
No,
we are sweet. We want everyone to succeed. We're very warm because the majority of us also, unlike some, moved from somewhere. So we know what it's like to be there fresh for the first week. So we're like, oh, come in.
Well, that's what I think is funny when people are like, people from LA or this and that. It's like everyone from LA is from where you're from. Like, like there's like 3 people from LA.
Yeah. And they're all like, where are these people from? And we all know what it's like to go on stage for the first couple of times. And we all will, we're very encouraging. The bottom line is just to do it. Whatever it is, it's not, there's no place you get to. That's winning the lottery. Yeah. All right. Winning the lottery is George Clooney, for lack of a better word, right? George Clooney won the lottery. But there's 100 other George Clooney's who are working to get to that spot. Chris Rock had to go to open mics every night, just like everyone else. So he is a comedian. Right. So someone right now is going to open mics for the rest of tonight. I'm not. I'm going to be lazy after this. When we're done, I'm staying in for the night. Yeah. I did my creativity for today. Go. But that idea that the process, like the journey is the destination. Yeah. So coming to LA is not about getting your face on TV. Coming to LA is about throwing your name in the hat of, hey, I'm a creator. I'm funny, or I got this bit, or I have this thing to share. The other thing is, if your thing is outside the box, especially bring it, because there's room for so many different things. I met Scout Durwood when she was playing a ukulele on stage. That's wildly different than her being on Mary and Jane. It's different from her playing Princess Leia, and it's different from her stand-up set. But I just saw it, and I was like, damn, that's great. I need to see more of that. And then you see she's got a whole body of work. And
you don't need permission to do it. That's one of the things that is great about LA. Like anybody who wants can go to the potluck at Comedy Store and put their name in the hat and probably get on stage. Yeah. Or they can go to, UCB on a Tuesday and do a character workshop and just get on stage and try stuff out. There are opportunities to be creative, and you just gotta do it.
And never be discouraged. Yeah. Ever. Like, we all get it. We all get discouraged. But what I mean is, if all it's gonna take is one bad crowd or one person to tell you we're no good, or let's put it like this:
that will happen.
A tough month where you don't have money, or a tough 6 months where things. Because I don't know how you feel. There's times now I'm constantly like, I still don't feel like I've really clicked. I don't know where I'm going to find that thing. And not just job-wise. Like, what's my ultimate expression as an artist? I don't know, but that doesn't stop me. It's committing to the journey and committing to the belief in... Like, I believe in art. I believe in creativity. I believe in comedy. I believe in movies. Like, I believe in that shit.
And you have to love that more than you love security. Because...
Oh, yeah.
For me, December will be a great month. December financially, if I was all about finances, December will be one of those months where I go, wow, I can't believe I made this much money. And the next month, there may be nothing. And the month after that, there may be nothing. And then I might have 2 really solid months. But you know what? Every one of those months, I'm going to be performing, and I'm going to be with people and connecting, and those are the things that you find value in, not just the...
And we recognize the difference between the things that we do to make the money and the things that we do which are creatively pleasing. Yeah. They don't always line up. And that's when I talk about the lotto. Like, Chappelle just got a 3 Netflix special deal. Yeah. That's where it all lines up, and his creativity will get to be funned into exactly that thing. But your corporate gigs, as you said, aren't always the most creatively filling. That doesn't matter. It's all necessary. And in fact, most of the time, some of the things that we do that are most creatively fulfilling have absolutely nothing to do with either making a living or getting seen. And I'll leave you with this final example. Yeah. Last November, right around my 2-year anniversary, I was working at Meltdown one night on some shows. And next door at the Nerdist School, they were doing a live staged reading of Back to the Future Part 2 in honor of it being the anniversary.
30th anniversary,
So it was exactly on that date that they started. And Back to the Future is always the movie that I say, that the trilogy especially, that's my favorite movie.
Me too. Hands down.
It's got everything I think a movie should have. It has a plot that makes you think a little.
Right.
It's got special effects, good characters,
Yeah.
great story, awesome hoverboards, this and that.
Right.
At the intermission or in between shows, something happened, and the guy who's putting on the show at the Nerdist School comes running next door and says, "Oh my God, the guy who was playing Biff just got food poisoning, and we need Biff.
Oh no.
Eddie, can you come play Biff?"
And you're like, yes, I know every line.
And I did. I went to my manager and I was like, "Look, can I go?" And she's like, "Yeah, just finish tickets and then you can go right over there on an intermission there." Perfect. I went over halfway through. So this is the thing. First, I had to be in LA.
Yeah.
Second, I had to be out that night because no one was going to call me from home. It was just because I was at the theater. Right? Lesson number 2, go out and do something. And then say yes. Because what happened was I got to play Biff Tannen, who, complete name drop, I got to meet Tom Wilson at Meltdown when he was doing the Meltdown show.
Yeah.
And he and I formed like one of those instant bond friendships that night.
Yeah.
And it was like I saw him and my face lit the fuck up. And what he did was he was basically like, with his demeanor and his eyes and his next couple sentences, he was basically like, "All right, don't do this. Don't pretend I'm Biff now. Just be a regular person.
Just
We're
be a
going to get
normal
along.
dude.
We're going to be
Be a
great
normal
tonight."
dude.
We ended up flirting the rest of the night about his car being parked somewhere. I was like, "Hey, whose ugly green car is that?" And he'd be like, "I don't know, some asshole."
I love it.
So that night, they call me. I get to go play Biff Tannen in a live stage reading in the Nerdist School.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, the Nerdist
Right.
School has its own fucking name value.
Right.
And to boot, I got to do the scene where old Biff and young Biff are in that car fighting about the magazine.
You got to play both parts?
I got to read both parts because Ryan Pigg, who's my co-host in Historical Roast, was there, and he was going to read young Biff while I read old Biff. And I kind of looked at him from across the room and was like,
Do this.
I think I can do this. And I did it. I did
You
old
said
Biff
yes,
and young Biff.
You said yes to the opportunity.
And I swear to God, like one of my favorite performances that I'll ever have was in front of 35 people in the Nerdist School on some random Wednesday night to celebrate this, where I read both parts and I got the best earned applause break at the end of that scene with the just, "Motherfucker, you crushed that." Because I was, "What do you mean you don't? What are you talking about, Grandpa?" Like, and that's one of those things, like, nobody paid me, no one's gonna see it. It was just the most creatively fulfilling because it was this moment of perfect confluence of all those things. And it just takes being there and doing it and saying yes. And again, just remembering that you're gonna do stuff to pay the bills, and you're gonna dress up like a blue man in the back of in the back of a limousine with a guy doing half magic tricks with a vacuum. But then one day you're going to get a chance to play Biff Tannen, young and old, or you're going to be next to a magician who you love and respect and get a chance to try a bit or work with them in a way. Like,
love it.
The moments that you are valuing as a creative person are there. They don't always look the way you want. You never know when they're going to pop up.
And if you would have stayed home that night,
if I hadn't been volunteering my time to run a theater, you know, like, again, just being out and about in the community is important because it's not the destination. It's not becoming a star. It's being out and watching comedy. Yeah. Seeing other people perform, watching shows and doing stuff like that.
If people want to catch up and see what you got going on, where do they do that? What's the best way?
Check out Twitter at Eddie Furth. Instagram the same. You can see what bow ties I wear. I'm good on Facebook.
Stellar bow ties. You tie all those yourself?
I will not wear a clip-on bow tie.
I wish you guys could see the intense
bow.
look just out of nowhere. Beautiful bow ties.
All hand-tied.
And a beautiful person. Thank you, man. Another great conversation with Eddie Furth. Eddie, thank you again for being a part of this, man. So huge, so much great insight, and just encouraged to know you and to call you friend, buddy. Appreciate you, man. Hey, guys, next week, big news. Tyrone Wells is going to be on the podcast. Tyrone Wells, an incredible singer and songwriter, musician. Go to iTunes. Do yourself a favor. Go to iTunes, type in Tyrone Wells, and then sit back and relax as your ears experience the most beautiful melodies you've ever heard in your life. Such a great dude. I sat down with him at his house, and next week he's going to be on the podcast. So take a moment right now and subscribe to this podcast. Give us a 5-star review. Let people know what you think about the show. It really, really helps, guys. Thanks to everybody who's going on iTunes, who's supporting the show, who's leaving reviews. I can't thank you enough. It means the world to me, and it really helps get the word out there. So check it out. We'll see you guys next time.